I never believed in the old stories, but now I wish I had. It was late September, and the Colorado Rockies were painted in gold and crimson. The air was crisp, and the scent of pine needles mixed with the earthy musk of decaying leaves. My plan was simple: a week of solitude to hike and reconnect with nature. I had rented a remote cabin deep in the wilderness, a place so isolated that even cell service was a luxury I wouldn't have. It was exactly what I wanted, or so I thought. The first 2 days were uneventful, peaceful even. I spent my mornings trekking through trails that seemed untouched by time, marveling at the towering peaks that framed the sky. But by the third day, an odd sensation began to creep in, like a faint whisper at the back of my mind. It started with the silence. The woods were alive with the chatter of squirrels, the rustle of leaves, and the occasional call of a bird. But that morning, everything was still. No wind, no sounds, just an oppressive quiet that seemed to press against my ears. I brushed it off, convincing myself it was just my imagination, and continued my hike. Yet, the deeper I went, the stronger the feeling grew that I was being watched. Around midday, I stumbled upon something unusual. A circle of rocks, unnaturally smooth, arranged in a perfect pattern. At the center was a pile of ashes. It looked like a fire pit, but there were no footprints or signs of recent activity. The sight sent a shiver down my spine. As I stood there, a soft laugh echoed through the trees. It was faint, almost like a child's giggle, but distorted. Wrong. I spun around, my heart pounding, but there was no one there. That night, back at the cabin, I couldn't shake the unease. Every creak of the wooden beams sounded louder. Every gust of wind against the windows seemed like something clawing to get in. Sleep didn't come easily. When it did, it was fitful and filled with strange dreams. Images of shadowy figures standing at the edge of the woods, their eyes glowing like embers. The next morning, I found markings on the cabin's front door. 3 claw-like scratches ran down the wood, deep enough to gouge the grain. Panic gripped me. I wasn't alone out here. I decided to cut my trip short. Packing my things quickly, I planned to hike back to the trailhead and leave this unsettling experience behind. But the forest had other plans. The trail I had come in on was gone. No markers, no familiar landmarks, just endless trees that looked identical. I felt trapped, like the forest itself had shifted to keep me in. As the sun dipped below the mountains, the cold set in, and with it, the whispers returned. They were louder now, circling me, coming from all directions. Shadows flickered in the periphery of my vision, darting between the trees. I came across another circle of rocks, this one larger and more elaborate. Strange symbols were etched into the ground, glowing faintly as the last light of day faded. A low growl broke the silence. It was guttural and inhuman, reverberating through the trees. I turned slowly, and there it was, a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. Its body was tall and gaunt, its limbs unnaturally long, and its eyes burned with an otherworldly light. It didn't charge or attack. Instead, it tilted its head, studying me with a curiosity that felt worse than any aggression. Then, it stepped back into the shadows, disappearing as if it had never been there. I ran. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't stop until I reached the cabin. Locking the door, I prayed it would hold. That night, the forest came alive. Thumps and scratching echoed around the cabin. Something, or many somethings, were circling me, their guttural growls blending with distorted laughter. At dawn, I ventured outside, desperate to escape. The markings on the door had multiplied, now forming a crude shape, a figure, tall and looming. As I stumbled through the woods, I encountered an old man sitting on a fallen log. His face was weathered, his eyes sharp. He spoke without looking at me. "They've marked you," he said. "Who?" I stammered. my voice trembling. He didn't answer. Instead, he handed me a small bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside was a piece of obsidian carved into a jagged shape. "Keep this with you," he said. "It won't save you, but it might confuse them long enough for you to run." I didn't ask questions. I took the stone and fled. That was weeks ago. I made it out of the woods, but I haven't been able to leave the terror behind. At night, I hear whispers outside my window, see shadows moving in the corners of my room. I don't know what I encountered in the Rockies, but I know it's not over. The forest marked me, and whatever lives in those woods doesn't let go.